What is going on, guys, and welcome back to the channel. So if you guys missed it, the other day I went ahead and put a video out where we were assembling P.T.F.E Russell's Powerflex series hose. And the reason I put that video out is because today's video we're going to be redoing the whole power steering system on the GTO with that line. So if you missed that video, make sure to go back and check it out. And while you're there, please think about subscribing and ringing the bell. It'll keep you up to date on all of these videos and all the videos we have to come. So with that being said, let's jump right into today's video and get the steering system knocked out. Alright, so as you guys can see, we've got some stuff laid out here on the bench. We decided to go with the Russell's Powerflex series hose. I hear this stuff is basically designed for power steering, and it's supposed to be perfect for the application that we are trying to use it on. We've got all of our fittings here, and then we've got our adapters that convert the rack and the power steering pump over to being able to accept a -6 fitting. I will link all this stuff, like I said, guys. I'm not going to tell you all the specs on all of it, but just give you a quick look at everything that we've got here. I personally wanted to stay with Russell's fittings for everything since I am using their hose, but it just didn't happen to work out that way. We tried to order all Russell stuff, and I got some of it, but I was waiting over a month for the other stuff, and then my order got canceled through Summit because everything is on back order. So then I ended up having to find an alternate option of something that we could use with this PTF line. I think it's going to work out fine. It's not exactly what I wanted to do, but I think it's going to work out just fine. So as you can see, we've got a few Aeromotive fittings, a Summit fitting, and a couple of the Russell's fittings that I ordered originally. Like I said, when I link this stuff in the description, I will link all of the proper fittings. Alright guys, so I went ahead and put one fitting together. I didn't bother showing you guys this one because the line was already cut right there from the factory. So on the next one we do, I'll show you everything from cutting the line to putting the fitting together. We're just going to put a little bit of oil on our O-rings here, and it's just as simple as that. Throw them in, and now we can adapt these to AN lines. And then we have one more of the -6 to 16 by 1.5 that is going to go on the pump when we're ready, and a couple other little things I'll show you guys, and that's really all we need to do. Where we're at now is we are going to take our adapter here. It's the -6 AN to 16 millimeter by 1.5. It's basically the same fitting that we have down there in the rack. We have two of them down there. But we're going to do the same thing and put this one up here at the power steering pump, because our top line from the rack is going to go directly to our power steering pump, which is the line that I am working on right now. So we're going to go ahead and put this guy in and then just tighten it down. It's an O-ring fitting, so it shouldn't need to be ridiculous. Just crank it tight, and that should be it. So, alright, so we're going to go ahead and test fit this line here. I'm going to hook this up down bottom, set the fitting, the 90-degree fitting that we're going to use on here, set it here, and then run the line and get an idea for length. We are going to be leaving our power steering lines a little bit long, just in case I ever have to drop this rack again, which I'm sure at some point either the motor will be coming out again or whatever, and it'll just be easier to drop the rack. So I want to leave extra line so that we can drop the rack and have play in the line to drop it a little bit, to either leave it like that or to drop it and be able to disconnect this a lot easier. So let's go ahead and get everything mocked up, and I will show you guys. Alright guys, so we have the line hooked up down there at the rack. Not sure if you guys can see it. I'll turn you guys upside down real quick and try to make it so you can see in there. Not sure if that's gonna work, guys, but either way, down in there where the rack is, I have this line hooked up. I'm leaving that extra slack right there for now. I might go on the other side of that motor mount, if you can see it down there, just to make it look a little bit cleaner, but I want to leave slack in it on purpose so that if I have to drop the rack, well, not if, but when I have to drop the rack at some point, I have enough line here to go ahead and do that and then disconnect it down bottom, like once the rack is more or less out. So this is about what I've come up with here. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and take, let's see if I can set you guys up here somewhere. Gotta hold it with one hand. Alright, so what I'm gonna do is go ahead and take a piece of blue painter's tape. You can use electrical tape. That's what I always used to use, but just recently I started using this blue painter's tape instead. And I'm just gonna go ahead and mark it where I want it. Basically right there. And then once I get it marked, I can pull this out of here and just give a couple wraps on it. And I will show you why here in a second. Alright guys, so we got that line in. I didn't tighten it down yet, but it is in. I think it looks a lot better. The way I ran it was I looped it down and then I went on the, I guess that'd be the inner side of the motor mount down there, and then back to the rack. So it kind of keeps it away from the header as much as possible. I was going to come right through here, but I figured if I did a direct route that way, it was going to get really close to the headers in a couple spots. So I figured, why not? Might as well run it down and around, and it worked out pretty good. I think it looks a lot better than the factory setup. We've still got another one from the rack to do, and that one's going to come out to our power steering cooler. I'm not 100% sure where we want to run the cooler yet. I don't know if I want to like tuck it up in here somewhere or maybe down in here. Not really positive. There's not a whole lot of real estate yet, but we'll figure it out. So I'm gonna go ahead and grab the cooler and set it in here and see where we think it's gonna fit best. Alright guys, so as you seen last night, we got the pressure line from the pump to the rack made. Now I want to make the lower line on the rack, but to do that I've pretty much got to get my cooler that I'm going to use in place so that we know where exactly we're actually running this line to. So I've got to find a way to mount this cooler. I'd like to put it down in here kind of. That's obviously not sitting perfectly how I want it, but somewhere in there. And what I'm thinking is, set that back down. But what I'm thinking is there's a lip right here on this like core support or whatever you want to call this thing. And I'm thinking just drill a little hole in it with a bolt and then make some little L brackets that come down that I can connect to the tabs on this cooler. And then I'll just spray the brackets black and spray our cooler black with some high heat paint and get that thing mocked up, and then we can make our next line. So I'm gonna go see what I've got for some like 1-inch strap or just some 1-inch aluminum or metal, whatever I've got, and see if we can't make some brackets for this thing. Alright guys, so I went ahead and made those little L brackets. I've only got one made so far. Not perfectly straight on the back part, but you're never going to see it, so it's fine for me. But that's how I went ahead and made it. Just put a 90-degree bend right at the top there. And the way I am planning to set this in here, if I can do it one-handed, something kind of like that. So I'm going to drill a hole in that like pinch weld area there, so we can put a nut and bolt on that. I'm gonna do one of these brackets basically identical for the other side. I just gotta make that one still. And then it's gonna sit somewhere around there. Not 100% sure where yet. I could center it or I could go to one side or the other, but I'm kind of thinking to favor this side. But I'm gonna go ahead and make that second bracket, and then I will show you guys when we get it mounted and we can finish making our lines. All right, guys, so I'm gonna keep it real with you. It was my own fault. I didn't air check this thing before we went ahead and made all of our brackets and got fittings, and I had this thing pretty much all set up, and then I went to put it on the car. I was about to drill the holes for the brackets, and I thought to myself, I was like, you know what? Let's just air check it real quick. I might as well. Well, we air checked it, and there's a leak. So I'm gonna show you guys real quick where our leak is, and I'll tell you what our next step's gonna be. Alright guys, so sadly this one just isn't going to work for us. I really wanted to use it. I had fittings for it to convert to AN fittings and stuff, and it's my own fault. I should have air checked this thing, especially with it being used, and I know what I took it off of. I just thought it was going to be good, so I made the brackets and whatnot for it. But it leaks. I'm not going to bother trying to fix it. I found one online for like 35 bucks or something. It looks fine. It'll do what we need it to do. It's not going to have AN fittings, but this isn't really high pressure anyway, so it'll be fine. So I ordered that up today, but now we're going to have to wait on it. So for now, we're going to just keep running our lines, which you guys pretty much know where I'm at. We got the pressure line from the pump to the rack done. I'm going to go ahead and make the one coming off the rack, run it up to the front here, and I'm probably going to run it. I don't know if you guys can see the opening in there next to the radiator. There's an opening in there that goes back, and I'm going to try to run it up through there and get the fittings, or get the line up to about here, and then I will put the fitting that I have that converts the PTFE, this line here, to a regular hose barb, and we will put that on and run it to our new cooler when that comes, so I can get pretty much everything prepped and make it so that the only thing left is the soft lines, like the rubber lines. So I'm going to go ahead and work on that, and then when the cooler comes in, I will show you guys what we ended up with. Alright guys, so the last piece of the power steering system has finally showed up here. At least we're hoping it's the last piece. Please excuse the mess. We've got like 30 different projects going on right now because we've been waiting on like one fitting or one little piece of the puzzle to finish things up, but everybody's on back order, so you just can't get some of the stuff that we need right away. So parts are finally starting to slowly trickle in so we can start buttoning up some things like the battery relocation and the fuel system and things like that. So that leads us to today's. We've got the power steering cooler, finally showed up this morning. This is the one that we decided to go with since the one we were planning to use actually had a small leak. So I tried to get one at AutoZone. It was kind of a piece of crap, so I ended up not using that and finding this one here. I got this one on Amazon. It was under 30 bucks. Part numbers there and dimensions are right there. I will link this in the description below, just like just about everything I use. If I can remember, I try to link it. So let's go ahead and take a look at it. Obviously, we've got the cooler itself. Pretty happy with how it looks. It looks like a pretty quality piece. Pretty compact, perfect for the power steering. Honestly, for what we paid for this thing, I'm really impressed with the the finish on it. So hopefully it stays looking decent for a while. That will be the real test, but it's pretty compact, so I think it's going to work out great for us. The only downside is it is a barb fitting, so we will have to convert our PTFE line over to a barb style fitting so we can use like a rubber hose or something of that nature. Then it also comes with some little instructions here, but some mounting hardware, some hose clamps, and some actual hose. So I think that's pretty awesome that it includes just about everything you would need in a normal situation. So that's pretty cool, especially for the price. But like I mentioned, we are going to have to adapt from AN or from PTFE to the hose barb end. So we've got an adapter here. It's just a little regular like push lock or barb style fitting, and it actually threads into the AN style or PTFE style fittings there, hose ends. So that's pretty cool. We're gonna go ahead and use this guy to convert over to a hose, and we will just use this straight on the end of our PTFE line so we can thread that in and go to a rubber hose, and we will be all set. So like I said, let's bring it on over to the car and mock this thing up and see what we got to do. Alright, so we've got the power steering cooler kind of set where I want it here. You can see these brackets are still a little bit long, but I might leave those long because I am going to be adding an engine oil cooler, and eventually this car will be going automatic, so we might need a transmission cooler at some point. So I might go ahead and leave those long just in case we want to add a second cooler down below where we have the power steering cooler. Right now, I just have it sitting in there, but you can see the brackets. I marked the holes already, so I'm going to go ahead and drill those out and either nut and bolt it or maybe see if a nut cert will work. And then we've got the plastic mounting rod things, and we will use that to fasten it to the brackets I made. I actually made these brackets for the other power steering cooler, the one that leaked, so at least I had them. At least I don't have to remake them or something, and I didn't waste my time making them the first time. So we're gonna go ahead and get that drilled, get that thing mounted up, and then we can figure out where we need to cut our line at to put our adapter and fitting in so that we can run to the hose bar bends that are right there. So let's go ahead and drill those holes out and get this thing finish mounted, and we can start finishing up the hose work and then button up the rest of this power steering system. Alright guys, so we pretty much have this thing mounted. Looks alright. I'm not upset with it. I think it looks pretty good. So that's what we're gonna go with. So now all we've got left is to make our lines and move on to the next part. Alright, so with that cooler mounted, we have our line to the cooler ran right here. I went ahead and marked it where I want to put our fitting. And what we're going to do is run that fitting that I showed you that goes to a barb, this one here. And then from that barb, we're going to use this. It's basically like fake AN hose. It's just stainless steel braiding with a rubber hose that you can use a hose clamp on like that. And it comes with these little fake looking fitting things, but I think it's going to look a lot better than just a regular black hose. And since the rest of the whole system is PTFE, I figured that we might as well make the rest at least look like it matches. So we'll go ahead and tape this and cut it here, probably pull it out of the car to do that. It'll just be a lot easier. And then we will put our connection and everything on, tuck it down in here so you don't see it, and then have the regular rubber hose go from where we tuck our fitting up to the cooler. Alright guys, so it is the next day. As you've seen last night, we tested this line. It's good to go. So next, what we're going to do is feed the 45-degree end down in by the rack, get that started, then feed it in where we want to run it, put our adapter on the end so that we can go to the barb, and then we can run it right out to our cooler here. So let's go ahead and get this line on. Alright guys, so not sure if you can see down in there, but let me turn you upside down real quick, see if you're able to see in there. Not sure if you can or not. But we ended up getting the line that goes to the rack, both of them, this one here, as well as this one. tight at the rack side. So we got that taken care of, got the header set back on there for now. And now what we're gonna do is take that adapter fitting I showed you guys, thread it into this here, switch over to our regular like rubber with the stainless braided for looks, switch over to that from here to the cooler, and then run our other line from the cooler to the reservoir. Not sure what I'm going to use on this yet. I don't know if I'm going to use regular rubber or get some more of this stainless braided stuff here, just so it all looks decent. Not sure yet. And then the other thing we still have to figure out is what I want to do about the line that goes from the reservoir to the pump as like the feed. I don't know if I want to just use a big rubber hose, or once again see if I can find this in a bigger size that would work there. We'll figure that out when we get to it though. So for right now, let's go ahead and get this together, get it hidden down out of the way, and run our rubber line to the cooler and figure out what we got to do next. Alright guys, so as you can see, we've got that line on. That's the one from the rack to the cooler. I used the bottom port, and then we've still got to decide what we're going to do with that top port. I think I'm going to use one of these clamps right here on that line that we just hooked up to try to hold it nice and out of the way so it doesn't rub or chafe on anything. And then we've really got to decide whether we're going to use a rubber line from the reservoir to that top port on the cooler, and if we're going to use rubber from this to the pump. I think we might go ahead and use rubber now just to get it buttoned up so we can get this project finished up with for now. And then later on, I might go with a metal or aluminum reservoir with like either ORB or AN fittings welded right to it, so that we can do actual stainless lines all the way to the pump and also to the cooler. So let's go ahead and decide what we're gonna do there and get this thing knocked out. Alright guys, so we went ahead and made that last line. We did go ahead and use a rubber line here because it's more than enough for what we need, and it is what I had laying around. So we went ahead and ran that with the braided line in through here. I did end up making that clip to hold it in place. Then we ran it up to our reservoir, and I also put these two lines together here. And I think it's coming out pretty good. The only thing left we really have to do is the line from that reservoir right there to this pump, and then we've got to tighten up that last fitting right there on the pump, and this whole thing's going to be pretty well buttoned up. I'm getting pretty excited, guys. This car's finally coming together. We're knocking things off the list one thing at a time, so that's pretty exciting. But let's go ahead and use this line here, and we will cut ourselves a piece the size we need and get this thing buttoned up. Alright guys, so this thing is pretty much buttoned up. We've got all of our lines ran. We've got our new cooler on here. Like I said, we might take care of these brackets a little bit later, but I'm going to leave them for now just in case we want to add on to those. I'm pretty happy with how everything turned out. The only thing I think I am definitely going to change is this reservoir here. I think I'm going to go to either a nice polished or a black aluminum one, just because we've got the whole black and polished theme going on here. I think it's looking pretty cool. So I'd like to stick with that a little bit more if we can. And plus, I mean, when you look at this thing, the reservoir kind of stands out like a sore thumb. So I definitely like to go ahead and change that. But I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. If you did, please think about sharing with a family member or friend. Also, think about subscribing, ringing the bell. It'll keep you up to date on all of the content that we have to come with the GTO, the Duramax, and the Hellcat. I try to do videos that you guys might like to see, and if you guys have any suggestions, please feel free to leave them in the comments below. I will definitely check them out, and if it's something I can do, I would love to do it. So with that being said, guys, thank you again for checking out the channel, and we will catch you on the next one.